if you can hear me. Great. Is my sound quality okay? Give me another wave. Okay, great. Thank you. One thing I'm recommending to every coach right now is they invest in good quality hardware, great microphone, headset is essential. If you're trying to do Zoom calls like you used to a couple of years ago without even using a mic, people will struggle to hear you, and you don't want that to happen this day and age. So good morning. I've asked you some questions in the chat. Jump in and post your answers. I'd love to know where in the world you are, and also how long have you been a professional coach? I want to get a sense of who you are. It looks like many of you are completely new. Who's completely new to me, didn't know who I was a year ago? Who's been following me for, or known about me for a year or more? Okay, interesting. Okay, cool mix of people. All right, well, great. It's good to see you. Here's how I want to play today. For those of you who don't know me or barely know me, I've been coaching, a professional coach for 15 years. Before that, I was a high school teacher. I didn't know what an email list was. I'd never had anybody pay me money for anything by sitting and talking to them. And I went into a completely new career 15 years ago, and wrote a book a few years back with a friend of mine called Steve Chandler. And the book's called The Prosperous Coach. And it took off in the world of coaching. It still sells 1,000 copies a day, not a day, a month, 7 years after we published it. And what we've done for over a decade now, I've been responsible for helping coaches build their business one relationship at a time by word of mouth. It's what I love to do. It's what excites me. It doesn't mean that internet marketing doesn't have its value. There's a place for that. But most people come into coaching from another field. They've been successful in the corporate world or as an entrepreneur, usually. Those are my people. And then they get overwhelmed by everything on Facebook and on the internet telling them they need to do that stuff themselves. And they find it very difficult to get clients that way. Because when you come into coaching, you're usually people. And it's important to remember that. It's important to go back to having relationships, building relationships, having conversations. So that's the game I play. And today, well, 3 weeks ago, I think we said, you know what, there's a moment in time where whilst I work with a real handful of people who are playing a very extraordinary game, let me open up what I do. Let me be of service to coaches who I've either heard of me or their friends have heard of me, and find a different way to give back and make a difference at this moment in time. But using the gifts that I have as a coach and helping coaches to thrive. So a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago, anyone else noticing that time is hard to measure right now? It's a very confusing, each Friday, it's a shock that it's Friday. And this moment in time, so yesterday my wife hurt her back, and I was coaching and then homeschooling my kids. And then I was creating a new program and then homeschooling my kids. It was a full-on day. It was a little bit overwhelming. I used to be a high school teacher. I was a vice principal eventually in inner city London. And I was the guy who would walk around the school. And if there was chaos in the classroom, I'd put my head through the glass window, look through the window of the class, the teacher who was struggling to cope with inner city kids. And I'd hear the kids going, Litvin's there. And they'd gradually go silent. And the teacher would look around wondering what had happened, and I'd walk away. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they were running rings around me yesterday. It's really hard homeschooling your own kids, and I've got a lot of experience working as an educator. So here's my context for today. The most powerful way we can show up as coaches is to be of service, serving our clients and serving ourselves first, really taking care of ourselves. Today, I'm here in service of you. So what I'd like to do today is to ask you the question, how can I serve you? But listen, before you answer my question, one of the most powerful ways as a coach is to go 2 layers deep. You can ask your clients, how can I serve you? What can I do to support you right now? What would make this an amazing conversation? Those are great questions to ask. But here's a way to really serve powerfully in this moment. Ask your clients, tell me about your clients, or tell me about your customers. What are their biggest challenges right now? What's the biggest risk they're facing? What do they want to create right now? And then diving in, seeing if you can support your clients' clients or your clients' customers. So I said that to one of my clients yesterday, and he said, well, one of my clients has a $4.5 million business that went to zero overnight. They're in the business of running travel events for kids who are athletes. And no one's traveling right now. No sporting events are happening. So their business has gone to zero overnight. I said, would you like some help putting our combined attention on your clients? He said, that would be awesome. I said, tell me about them. He told me a bit more. It turns out that they run these events all around the world in spring break and in the summer, the Christmas vacation, to have kids really training hard to be top athletes, working with top athletes. I said, well, who are the customers or the clients then of your client? And there's really three. There's the coaches who bring his client in to tell the parents about these travel events that they'll do. There's the parents who pay for the experience and the kids who go on it. So I said, well, let's break that down one at a time. How can we support the coaches right now? And we brainstormed some ideas. And I said, well, what if I said, let me hazard a guess. I'm going to imagine that if they're running an organization like this, your clients have got some connection with really top athletes. He said, well, they were top athletes. That's why they created this organization. What if, I said, they could create something where once a week, all the coaches in their community would get free guidance and advice and training from some of the top athletes in the world, so that when things open up again, these coaches are ready to hit the ground running with their athletes. That was really exciting to him. I said, no, well, let's look at the kids. What if we could do the same thing for the kids? What if we could run calls for these kids with some of the top athletes in the world? So they were excited and still talking about your company's program all the way through this lockdown. He was excited about that. And I said, well, but actually neither of those groups are paying clients or customers for your client. It's the parents. What do the parents get most out of this opportunity? He paused for a second. He said, you know what? They get time alone. They send their kids off to go on a trip for 2 weeks to be trained to be much better quality athletes, but they get 2 weeks as parents with no kids around. I said, I get that. I'm a parent. It's a bit overwhelming, have your kids all around you all the time. What if you offered date night right now? What if you wrote to all the parents in this community who've ever paid money and said, here's what we're going to do. Every Thursday night is date night for you, because we're going to get your young teenage kids on a Zoom call with some of the top athletes on the planet for 2 hours. They'll be doing physical training or learning about new techniques for training. And they'll be so excited because they're top athletes, and you will get date night. And there's no charge for any of this because we're in service of you. And by now he's full of ideas and excited and can't wait to go back to his client. How can you serve 2 layers deep? Ask your clients, tell me about their client, your clients, and who are their customers or clients, and then find a way to serve them. So that's the question I'm going to ask right now for all of you guys. I'm going to ask you to put into the chat and write the letter Q in a capital letter in front of it. So I'll be able to skim through and find your question. Tell me, be concise, if you'd like my support with one of your clients or with one of your clients right now, so we can help their clients or customers, let me know and we'll dive in. So let me take a sip of water and we'll see what comes. Great, some questions are starting to come up. That's great. Some of you send me private messages. Thank you. I read them. I appreciate that. I'm just having a skim of where you are in the world. I love seeing it. We've got people all over the world. I love that Nicola's on a bike ride in this moment. I don't know how you're texting and on a bike ride and listening to me, Nicola. That's great. Okay. Well, let's jump in. I'll do it in a random order, not necessarily in the order that you came through. Well, let me start with Alison. Ms. Garner. Hi, Alison. Will you unmute?
Oh, hi, Rich.
Hey, Alison. Long time no see. So Alison has been a former client of mine. She's a member of 4PC. It's great to see you. Tell me more. Who are these clients you're talking about?
So my client owns a ski resort in Michigan, which was shut down during the quarantine, and they're pretty strict. They're not allowed to be on site. And they've got this beautiful property, all of these acres where people could be outside, they could socially distance. And so I'm wondering, what would it look like to support my client, who is the ski resort, to support their customers who are just, people that love to be outside and be in nature and be active?
If either you've already asked this question or you think you know the answer, what's the biggest challenge that your client has right now?
Well, cash flow is big. And then the order from the governor saying they can't open.
When you ask them about their biggest challenge, what do they say?
They usually go back to their big vision, which is to enrich lives by sharing the gift of the outdoors. And so the challenge is, how do they share the gift of the outdoors in a way that's not going to get them into a bunch of trouble, right? Like they're okay to open it up. They're okay to bring people in, but it's a new puzzle that they have to figure out how to put together because it's changed.
So let me differentiate these two things. First of all, you said cash flow, and then you talked about how do they share the gift of the outdoors, their bigger purpose. If cash flow is their biggest issue, you need to sit down with them and do a reality check. And I'm saying this for everyone here right now, maybe for yourselves or maybe for your clients. If cash flow is an issue, you've got to sit down and run the numbers. How much money do you have in cash right now? How much money do you have access to, whether it's loans or money from the government, or how much money can you apply for? How much money do you have coming in the days and weeks ahead? It's really important to run the numbers, Alison, and it's worth saying for everyone who's here that for each of us, we should be doing that right now. And then doing an analysis, well, okay, this amount of money, for some of us, we've got money due to come in the weeks and months ahead. What if only 80% of that comes in? If only 60% of that comes in, if only 40% of that comes in. So we're ready and we're prepared. It's really important to run the numbers. Then you can also do things like going to your mortgage provider or your bank and asking to renegotiate loans, doing other things to make sure that you have more access to cash. So it's worth saying that for everyone who's on the call. Really do your homework around the numbers. Do not put your head in the sand. It might be scary, but it will serve you to have real clarity about reality right now. How close are they to having clarity on the real situation in this moment?
So that's one of the things that I do with them. We have run the numbers. They've got a pretty good idea of how they're going to make it through, all the way through like July and August. So we've worked out several scenarios. They've applied for all of the government assistance. They've actually received a lot of government assistance. So they do have just barely enough to squeak by for a few months, and then things start to get a little dicey.
Right. Okay. So that's good. They're running the numbers. They really need to, Alison, I'm going to just mute everyone for a second and then you unmute yourself. I think someone's unmuted by mistake. Okay, Alison, you unmute again. Yeah, that's great. Please keep yourself muted, gang. And by the way, somebody asked me the other day, why don't we run this as a webinar rather than as a Zoom call like this? Because then we won't get people unmuting by mistake or sharing their screen by mistake. And there's a reason I do that. Even though this is a bit of hassle, I'm about community. I'm about people, and we get to see each other like this. It's really powerful to know we're not alone. This isn't about me just teaching. I really am about connecting with really great people. Thanks, Mish. I see your thumbs up. So that's great that they're getting that clear about reality, Alison. That's really important. And for all of you watching right now, I wasn't going to apply for government assistance. It felt like we're doing okay with our business. I could see that I wasn't going to be worried about the numbers. And then I watched some of the big hotel chains and massive organizations applying and getting government assistance. And I realized I have a business that makes a difference to people's lives. I'm going to seek that assistance. I don't know if I'll get it because it sounds like actually some of those big hotel chains are getting it before us. But I really recommend you look at ways that you can support yourselves right now, all of you. So Alison, that's great. They're getting clear about a picture of reality. Yep. And let me ask you this. Here's something for everyone. Did you watch the call I did with Vicky for our community, where she shared a tool for the three phases of change?
Yep.
If any of you haven't seen that, then look in our Facebook group. You'll see a link to that. It was a very powerful model that's worth sharing with clients because it starts to get them clear about looking into the future and where things might be. And if you run a business that involves lots of people getting together right now, then you need to think very clearly about the future. If you're in the restaurant business, you need to think clearly about the future. Whilst people are saying restaurants will be likely to open again soon, except waiters will wear masks and gloves, and people will sit further apart. That sounds good in theory, but if you run a restaurant, people might not want to go in if they notice that the waiters are wearing masks and everyone's sitting far apart. It might feel too weird and scary to be in there. We all need to think quite radically about where will things be, and we don't know. So it's a little scary to do that kind of thinking. They have an advantage that they are outside, and at some point, things will open up, and those are some of the first places we'll be able to go back to, and we'll be craving to go back to be outside in nature. Yeah. So it's really good that they're thinking about that. I'd have them be really brainstorming about ways that people can be outside, except not together. How can they make safety their number one priority and nature number two?
Yep, I like that.
And I'd also be thinking about a way, how can they help people at this moment be aware of nature? It is so important. So what could they do? Let me ask you this, let me backtrack. How much of a community do they have? As in, do they have a newsletter where they share stuff with people who've ever been a customer of theirs?
Yep. So they've got a newsletter. They have, they also have social media. They've got a pretty good following. It's pretty significant and sustainable. Their people love them and they're real loyal. So they've got, I think, the foundation for something.
That's great. So I do a couple of things. I build that energy with their community. How can we serve our people? By asking questions. What do you guys want most right now? What would you like to know so that you're ready when this, we want to be one of the first ski resorts that opens up as soon as we're allowed to and it's safe. What do you need most right now? And what can they offer right now, Alison, that would have people paying the money right now? You know what? If you are committed to being outside and in nature, so are we. And just like many of you, we have a business that we want to sustain. So we're going to do something unusual. We don't discount our prices. We do the highest quality ski resort in the area. But what we will do is, if you want to invest now in getting a season pass for your family, that as soon as it opens, instead of getting 1 year, we will give you 2 years for the price of one. Where can they get really creative in what they offer now? That some people who do have cash, there are many people who do, who know that we can't wait to be outside. There's one of our family friends every single week drives 4 hours to, I think it's Big Bear, to be out in nature for the whole weekend skiing. There are people like that who, if they have the opportunity now to know, as soon as we can, we're going back. Wow, I can invest some money now. What a gift to me.
Okay, that unlocked a ton. I love this idea because we've been circling around like, how do we bring people back and keep it legal versus like, once we open, people are going to flood this place because they're open year round and they have all sorts of spring, summer, and fall activities as well, mountain biking and UTVs and stuff. And so wouldn't it be great to know, like, start getting your stuff ready, get it on your trailer, because when we open, we're ready for you.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I would think about a range of things. Come to get really creative. If you have young kids who haven't yet skied, we're going to have a special program for them. If you pay for it now, you can we can start getting your kids excited about skiing. We're going to do 1-minute indoor skiing lessons for you. And, create a fun online class that's ridiculous, using cardboard skis on a hardwood floor. How could they bring a sense of fun to their community?
That's great.
Beautiful. If anyone else has any ideas, for Alison, will you write Alison and then post that in the chat below, and Alison will be able to skim through and see what ideas you have. Alison, it's fun talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rich.
Yeah, my pleasure. And do you guys see serving 2 layers deep? I wasn't helping Alison. I'm helping Alison help her clients. What does that do for Alison? That's going to have Alison feel excited about the thought of us doing more work together, because here I am serving the people she's working with. Alison, thanks. That was fun. So let me have a look through what else is going on here. Sherry asked a question about principals helping their teachers, kids, and parents. That one, I'm struggling with that one, Sherry, myself, because I used to be a vice principal. I'm a parent right now. I'm watching some of the emails going out from principals. It's overwhelming for teachers right now. I'm not going to dive into you on that one. I really feel for principals in this moment. It's a real struggle. And the reason I don't want to dive into that is that my background's in education, and I would probably get too much into consulting rather than coaching. And I want to stay in coaching mode right now. And my heart goes out to all the principals and teachers and other parents right now. Let's see where else I should go. Okay, Brian, you want to ask about real estate agents. Brian, will you unmute?
Hello.
Hey. Oh, hey, man. Hey, how are you?
Hey. I'm doing awesome. Great to talk to you.
You too. Tell me about these real estate agents and why they've invited you to speak to them.
Yeah, they were actually just calling around to different coaches on LinkedIn, and they found me to just provide their group of 28 high-performing real estate agents. They're called high-octane individuals with some value. So they said, do you do anything? Absolutely, I can put something together for you. I specialize in communication and relationships and conflict resolution, just helping people make the best out of their relationships. And so I've talked to them extensively to get a sense of where those real estate agents are at. And it seems to be around like helping them stay positive and have hope, so I'm not sure what the best way I can.
So I would play this game. I'd play this game with them. I'd ask them at the start of the call, hey, you could even say, hey, I've got a presentation. I've got lots of ideas to help you feel motivated and excited, and I could share all that. But I want to put that to one side because I want to talk to you as real people. Tell me, guys, what's your biggest challenge right now? And ask each of them to share. If it's on a Zoom call, they can put it in the chat and you can get a sense. You could ask them beforehand. You can ask the organization, hey, would you please ask them to tell me this one question? What's your single biggest challenge right now? And who's your best customer? Ask them those 2 questions, because real estate agents often have a best customer or a handful. The kind of people who, if it's these, what do you call them, high octane realtors, what that means is they have a handful of clients over the years who come back to them again and again and again. I have a former client who's a very high level real estate agent, word of mouth alone for 25 years. And she had people who she just would be there in service in all sorts of ways. What do you need right now? And she would serve them, nothing to do with real estate. Whatever they needed, she'd be of support to them. So 7 years later, when they moved to their next home, she was the first one they called. So ask them, who's your best client? Tell me about them. What's their biggest challenge? Now you're serving 3 layers down. What's their biggest challenge right now? What do they need? Sounds like that actually there's their a family with 2 kids, they're overwhelmed. Maybe the biggest gift you could give them is to sign up for a box from I think it's called the CTA, the farmers who want to have business in this moment are allowing you to buy boxes of food, meat and veggies, cost $100. Send a gift of food to a family of 2. What else, brainstorm with them. That's an idea from me, but brainstorm with them. What do your highest level customers and clients need most right now?
Mm-hmm. And then how to build new relationships during this time too?
No, I'd stay there. I'd stay there. That's possible, but at this moment in time, most people are not thinking about buying a new home. Mm-hmm. And if you're out there trying to get new customers, I would put their attention on their current clients and customers, because each of them, if they're these kind of high level people who have spent a lot of money on their new home each time, they have friends and peers and colleagues who they will talk to. Mm. This is a longer term game, but that's the game that most of us have to be in right now, being of service. So I would start there. If they say, well, what do I do about getting new customers and clients? Here's what I would say. You know what? Let's do that on another Zoom call. If you guys like this, tell your organization to bring me back on another call. Cool. Now you create more business for yourself at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you.
All right. That silence that Brian's got is his head spinning right now with ideas about where he'll go. That's why there's no questions coming. So if other people have thoughts for Brian, because you know that field, that industry, can you write Brian in the chat and then post some ideas for him?
That'd be awesome. Thanks.
All right. Let's see where else we should go. Thanks for the private messages, you guys. Gilad, tell me, you say raising money for a foundation. Will you just unmute and let's talk?
Hey, man.
Hello.
A client is a basketball player who runs a foundation for young kids in his community from lower socioeconomical families, support basketball camps and education. Basketball camps obviously physical, and was supposed to have one this summer. And it's kind of like a fundraising event, and I was helping him to build a bigger fundraising event for this summer to raise more money, because he funds the entire thing himself until now.
Okay, nice. That's what I wanted to check in on. So for those of you who don't know Gilad, he's a former professional basketball player from Israel, and now he's a coach. What's this guy's biggest challenge right now, Gilad?
So raising money for this foundation. He's doing okay on the personal side. This is his biggest mission, and raising money for that.
So let me ask you, it sounds like, tell me if I've got this right, that actually having money is not an issue for him personally. He's got enough resources for himself. He's not worried about money for himself.
Yeah.
And he's built a nonprofit that until now, basically he's been funding himself or maybe some small donations, but this was the year to finally take this nonprofit and it will become self-funded over time.
This is what I'm trying to help him to do.
Yeah. So am I right? That was the goal for this year. Yeah. So most nonprofits have found their donations go to almost zero, almost overnight. I've been helping a client who runs a nonprofit who's had that experience. Some of you may either run nonprofits yourselves or have clients who do. And it's very challenging right now because when people are afraid, they're thinking about how do I spend money on myself? I haven't got money to spend out there, or they're donating to the causes that are in our attention span right now, to people in the healthcare world or people in communities that needs real support. And so nonprofits like your friends, there's going to be challenges around raising money at this moment in time. I'd answer this differently if it was a nonprofit like my friends. Some of you know Teo, my friend Teo Alfero runs Wolf Connection. They have 40 or 50 wolves that take a lot of money to feed, to take care of. They use those wolves to run programs for inner city kids, for people who are formerly incarcerated, for military veterans. Their donations went to zero. They were generating millions of dollars and went to zero overnight, and they can't stop. My guidance would be different if it was like this. But for him right now, my sense is the game for him is, how can he create real value for kids right now who are stuck at home, where basketball was the only thing that kept them alive and excited. Basketball is such an amazing game for kids, particularly in inner cities, because you just need a hoop in a park and a ball, and that's it. And those kids are bored and frustrated right now. What can he do that will excite those kids? How can he bring former professional basketball players into the mix to get those kids excited to listen, to watch, to interact with really high-level basketball players, so that when this is over, he can then play the game of generating money. But right now, generate interest, generate buzz, generate support, generate connection. That's my sense of where he should put his attention right now. How does that land?
So there are two senses to it. I'm trying to connect him with few people for like more future work. The problem that most kids we can't contact because they don't have computers at home. So actually supporting them now is almost impossible.
Yeah, it's really challenging for kids in inner cities. People don't have much money. We have this luxury of getting on Zoom. We don't think twice about it. There are families who don't have Zoom, who don't have computers. And so I feel for those kids. It may not be where he's able to put his attention right now. It simply may not. Again, those of you guys who have ideas, write Gilad in the chat and we can brainstorm from the ideas of the community. But they may not be the people he's able to serve most right now. So I'd ask him that question. If we can't serve those kids right now, two things. One, how can we be ready the moment the lockdown opens up and things are freer for these kids, they can get out? How can we be ready to support them on day one? That's a really great place to put his attention right now.
Yeah.
And two, what can we do? Who are other people we can support in this moment? It may not be those people. Well, where is it? We may have to turn and look in a completely different direction. I mean, there are thousands of top athletes right now, Gilad, who are training at home, who have got no sense of purpose. If he built a connection and a community there, so these top athletes are ready when things open up, not only to get back into their training, but to be of service too. A lot of us are thinking right now, how can I make a difference in this moment in time? And my sense is there could be something really interesting there around community that he could build.
So I like the first idea a lot of being ready for day one, gather a bunch of people, and the next day just do something for them. We bring them out, we do a day camp just for them to be active. I love that.
Beautiful.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Gilad. I'll pause with Gilad in this moment. And you guys have got any thoughts for Gilad or any guidance? At the very end of that chat with Gilad, his Wi-Fi went a bit spotty for a second. Do you guys notice that? I really recommend, if you are doing these kind of calls with your clients all day long, I bought a 100-meter cable the other day. And even though I have no skills at all in doing that kind of DIY, I wired in an Ethernet cable from my router all the way through to my office so that I don't have to use Wi-Fi on these calls. So really think about that quality in these conversations you're having with your clients. All right, let me have a skim through. I've got lots of messages here. Let's see where I can support people in this moment. Jess asked the question, how can I help a client who's setting up a business as an events organizer, given there are no events happening? I would say, tell her to pivot, Jess. This is probably not the best time to be setting up as an event organizer. Although, as I say those words, what just hit me is actually counterintuitively, sometimes the best time to start is, okay, let me mute everyone again. Sometimes people unmute by accident. There's a great book called Rookie Smarts. And in Rookie Smarts, the premise of that book is that when you come in as a newbie to any field, you don't know the rules. You don't know how things are supposed to be, so you do them your way. I built my business through the recession back in 2007, 2008, and really flew because of that. So whilst I caught my own words and the paradox of this, one moment I'm telling her to pivot, and another is, well, maybe as an event organizer who doesn't know the way things are supposed to do, the best thing she can do is get really creative. And so I might play with her, Jess, around what interesting ways could she be set up for when things open up that she's thinking differently to every events organizer who's been in the business for 20 years. And I might play with your client around that. Ali, you've got an interesting question. Ali Moladina. Ali, will you unmute?
Hi, Rich.
Hey, Ali, give me a wave. Oh, no, I can see you. Hey, man. Hey, so tell me about this client of yours, medical device company.
Yeah, so they're based in the UK, and they're not actually a client now, but they were in the process of becoming a client. It was actually an old boss from when I left my previous job, and we kept in contact. I had done some sessions around this, for their sales team, just around personal development. And I just reached out to her and said, hey, how are things going? And, there's not a lot their sales team can do. And I was wondering how I can support them right now in terms of, keeping that team going, being productive, seeing as they can't even go into hospitals right now and have conversations,
Yeah, I do. First of all, it's really nice hearing a British accent. It makes me feel at home. So,
and I have a similar story to you. I actually used to live in England and moved to the States about a year ago. So
nice.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you?
In Minneapolis.
Okay, cool. So it reminds me of the movie with Will Smith when he was trying to sell those medical devices in hospitals. I can't remember the name of that movie in this moment. So if they were already a client, I would answer this differently. They're not currently a client. Where's your relationship with this old boss of yours right now?
So I had done some one-off training sessions and workshops for the team. And then we had talked about a couple of months ago, just doing some sort of one-on-one coaching for either her or do some group coaching for the team. And then when everything happened, it's just sort of been a little bit quiet, and I haven't pushed it because...
When was the last time you spoke to her, Ali?
It was a text message conversation just over Easter, just to say, hey, happy Easter. Hope you have a good time with the family. Enjoy your downtime. Look forward to connecting soon. And she was like, yeah, hope we get to catch up at some point.
So what dawns on me is to send her a message that says something like this. I'll say it out loud and see how it lands. What's her first name? Oh, it cut out. Say that one more time.
Catherine.
Catherine. Okay. It went quiet twice. And these days, picking up a phone and sending a video text, I've talked about this in the Facebook group most of you are in, I think it's the most personal way to get through to somebody. So a little video text, hey, Catherine, I was thinking of you. And imagine, I can't imagine how challenging it must be right now because you guys can't even get into hospitals. If you'd like to jump on a call, I've been really brainstorming ideas about ways that your sales reps could really be of benefit to their customers right now, so that the moment the lockdown opens up, they're primed to be the first person making sales. Let me know. We can jump on a call.
Okay.
How'd that land for you?
Yeah, I think I really like the idea of the video message. I can see that being unique. I guess what I'm struggling with is, if I get them on that call, what is it that...
Okay. So let's slow this down. You got to separate out the fears that are going on for Ali here that is getting to the mix of this. First of all, I want to draw out what I did in that message. One, it's personal. Hi, Catherine. Two, it's very short, 20 seconds or less. 3, it's I've been thinking of you and I've been thinking about your sales reps and I've been brainstorming some ideas to support them so that the moment the lockdown is over, they are ready to really take off in the field that they're in. So she knows, wow, you've been thinking of me. Even if she never replies, she's touched that you've been thinking of her. And you haven't just been thinking of her, you've actually been actively brainstorming some ideas. That's the reason I worded it that way. Now let's talk about Ali's fear. So Ali's afraid that he doesn't know what to do, but here's what you do. You get her on the call and you say, hi, Catherine, how's things? What's going on? How's the family? And then you ask her, what's the biggest challenge you guys have right now? You don't know what it is. You're predicting what it is. You're making up what it is, but you actually don't know. Maybe they've pivoted already and they're doing something different. You have no clue right now. Ask her, what's the biggest challenge that you guys face right now? Here's another really powerful question. What's the biggest risk to your business right now, Catherine? It's another way of wording that question. It's quite powerful. It really makes you stop and think. What's the single biggest risk to your business right now, Catherine? And then you ask, how can I help? That's it.
I think the big insight that comes from this conversation is, yeah, actually I've made up that there is a problem and there is a challenge, and I'm assuming that, and actually, yeah, I don't know what the big challenge is for them. So that's a big insight. Yeah, thank you.
Someone I know coaches a company that makes bags, nice handbags. They have pivoted to make masks and are making a lot of money because they're making masks. You don't know what's going on in organizations. Some people are really changing quickly and have found all sorts of ways to be of service that's having an impact. When you're out there of serving people, the money comes back to you. So yeah, find out, ask.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ali.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys see that short conversation with Ali leaves him with a bit more clarity, a little bit more confidence, and something he can do at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, if not in 10 minutes time. That's what you want to leave your clients with. A little bit more clarity, a little bit more confidence, and a single step, a single action they can take. And all that took was 5 minutes of conversation, maybe 3. You can promise them that. It's the sort of thing when people say, well, how can you help? You say, well, if we have a conversation, I know 3 things will happen. 1, you have a little bit more clarity than you did before, because it's hard to get clear when we're just thinking on our own. You saw that with Ali. His fears came up, well, what would I do? And all I said, you don't have to do anything, just ask her. And he suddenly got a bit of clarity. And then he had a bit more confidence because of the clarity. And then he knows exactly what to do. 1 single tiny step to take. Sometimes we overthink this stuff. Oh, great. I love that you guys are giving support to other people in here. Let's see what else we got. All right, let's do this. I got 54 different messages here and lots of you guys interacting with one another. There's 15 minutes left. Let's do this. If you have a question for me right now, would you write the letter Q and be concise? Write it in a single sentence and drop in a question. And I'll see how much of a fast Q&A I can do in this moment. Oh, thanks, Sona. Sona says, this is so much value in these calls. I feel so inspired. Thank you. I really appreciate that, because I was literally, as the silence was going on, I was wondering, are people getting value for these calls? What's going on? I'm human. So I was actually in that thought right now. So thank you for that. Someone's just dropped an interesting question. They've said, I won't say who it is because they sent it to me privately, but they said, what do I need to do, Rich, in order to collaborate with you publicly? Well, if any of you want to either collaborate with someone in the world or want to do business with someone in the world who they don't know you, you have to find a way to give them value. So you can't just write to somebody and say, how can I collaborate with you? I don't know this person. They've got to show me who they are in the world. They've got to find a way to create enough value for me that I go to them and say, wow, when Steve Chandler and I wrote our book together, we'd both been on the faculty of a coaching school together. And I was on the faculty of his coaching school. And Steve said to me, he'd written 20 books at that time. He said, and I had an idea. I wanted to write a book back in whatever it was, 2010 or so. I wanted to write a book, but I was afraid, I was scared. And Steve said to me, Rich, would you like to write a book together? Because I can see that you've already written half of it. He'd seen that from all the replies I was giving to coaches who were building their business by word of mouth on the online forums we were using, that all the insights I was sharing was what I would call intellectual capital that could become intellectual property if we put it into a book together. Steve saw that I was creating enough value. He said, do you want to partner together? Because we can create more value with the two of us together than we can either of us alone. So if you want to partner with somebody, find a way to create enough value for them that they say, oh, wow, let's talk. Graciela says, when is it right to start charging high fees? That's a question that I've been asked for over a decade. It has nothing to do with this moment in time that just feels real. I still charge high fees. It's $100,000 to work with me one-on-one. And I'm in conversations with people still about that. And I also have programs like our intensive that starts next week for $1,500. Or you can buy my book for free, or you can be in our community where I'm serving at no charge. You want to find a whole spectrum from high fees to ways that you can serve people. They don't have to pay you a penny. And people will gradually, those of you who like you will come deeper and deeper. Thanks for that feedback, Kathy. Oh, thanks for the feedback. Vaishnavi, my client says he feels lonely. Yeah, it can be quite lonely at this moment in time. And my experience with high-level leaders is that you can feel very lonely even if you're surrounded with people. I would have, you ask, how do you take it up with him? I'd start a conversation about that. I'd talk to other leaders who feel lonely. They're not alone. Michael says, I've got a session next week with 3 business owners. I really want to go deep with them. One of my favorite ways to go deep quite quickly is to get really personal and to go there first. So I often use this question. If you see any of the talks I've done online, I'll often start a speech with this. What I don't want you to know about me is. What I don't want you to know about me is. You can't fake that up. What I don't want you to know about, you can't make it up rather. What I don't want you to know about me is I feel exhausted right now, or something you've prepared in advance. It has to be real and in the moment. When you get really vulnerable with the people you're with, then, well, I'll do it right now. What I don't want you to know about me is I was talking to a buddy 2 days ago, and he told me that he'd spent the day lying on the couch, watching great movies and eating ice cream with his daughter in his arms. And I got really jealous because I don't let myself do that. I make up a story that I got a model for the kids that if I'm working hard, which is fine, I love to do my work, or I'm doing something important like reading or connecting. I won't let myself just zone out and watch TV in front of the kids. And I felt a bit embarrassed that I don't give myself permission to do that. And so there you go. In that moment, there was something real for me. You know, it's a bit real when you start to sweat a little bit when you share it with people. And that brings them together. That brings a sense of closeness. Adrian asks, is it a time to pivot from counseling to coaching? If you would like it to be, it is. It's your choice. There are people, one of my favorite and most powerful distinctions as a coach is the difference between a reported on world and a created world. Most people live in a reported on world. Don't get me wrong. In this moment in time, if people are facing health crises or loved ones are sick, there's a realness to that is not in dispute. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the thoughts that live in our head for most of the time. We live in a reported on world. My boss doesn't like me. It's hard in my industry. In my state, things are different to your state. In my country, things are different to your country. I had somebody write to me recently. They said, I live on a beach in Thailand, or it wasn't Thailand. It was another beautiful island. It's this beautiful island, and it's really hard to get coaching clients here. I wish I lived where you lived, Rich. Well, it was interesting because I live in California where everyone and their mother, every Uber driver is a coach. So I was thinking, oh, I'd love to live on an island. In fact, when I lived in Thailand for 6 months, I created clients on a beach because when people are on a beach, turns out they like to think about their life. And if you're a coach, it's a great place to get clients. We make up what the world is like. So Is it a good time to transition into coaching? If you choose it to be. Oh, thanks for the comments, some of you guys. Can you walk us through your process from complimentary coaching session to proposal? Read The Prosperous Coach. Read that book and watch every video I've made. You don't even have to pay for the book. Watch every video I've ever made. Go back through my blog on richlitvin.com. Read every article. I teach all that stuff. And there's a beautiful video called The Art of the Proposal. If you want to know how to really serve somebody powerfully, and at the end of it, look them in the eyes and explain, this is how we'll work together. This is how much it will cost. This is what you need to do if you'd like to work with me. The Art of the Proposal. Just put that into YouTube and my name. Ernest says, can you give us some ideas on getting creative with fees and offerings in case the client cannot pay full fees right now? I can, and let me be really clear that each of us needs to be really clear about our professional self-esteem and the value of what we're offering in the world. Because otherwise, that question, can you give me ideas of getting creative with fees and offerings in case the client can't pay full fees right now, is a question I have not stopped hearing for 10 years. So I don't want to pretend that it's because of the situation right now why it's important I ask that question. Coaches have asked me that question for over a decade. Yeah, you can get creative. I get creative all the time. I highly recommend you have a menu. When someone says, well, what does it cost to work with you? You can literally pull out a piece of paper and you say, well, let me tell you, there are 3 ways that people work with me right now. Sometimes people work with me for 7 months, sometimes for 3, and sometimes people don't need that kind of depth of coaching. They just need a 4-hour session. You want something as simple as that. And they say, well, it's only more. Wait for them to ask, well, how much do they cost? Well, this one's 15 grand, this one's 7 grand, this one's $1,500. And then go quiet. Because sometimes people will say, oh, I want that one, or this one, or that one. Sometimes people will say, I love those options, but I can't afford that right now. Well, you can get creative. During the last financial crisis, I had one guy, we had that conversation. He said, I'd love to work with you, Rich. What can we do? We ended up agreeing that we do a single hour of coaching that we split into 4 15-minute coaching sessions over a couple of months. He loved it. And I always gave more value. I always spent half an hour each time instead of 15 minutes. It was $1,000 I made from that. And it was great for him and it was great for me. You have to make stuff up in the moment, but start with your menu and don't undercut your prices. Don't discount. Well, normally this is, $15,000 for 6 months, but I can do it right now for $5,300. It feels really cheap and tacky. Create something different. I created something different as a way to be of service recently. It's $100,000 to work with me one-on-one. Members of 4PC pay 25 grand, but I created something for 100 days. I thought if people are facing challenges right now, they can have 100 days of coaching with me. I put a group together, it would be 25 people for 100 days, and it was $2,500. It was something I'm just running in this moment in time, something very unique at this moment. And it was a different price point for people to come in. And because of the caliber of the community that I've created, there's no one in there who I wouldn't have accepted in any of my other programs at any time. They're great people in that community. So you can get creative, just don't discount. If a client, thanks Amina, nice to see you here. If a client goes against a plan they committed to in a coaching session and they write to you in a panic saying they made a huge mistake, how can you respond with compassion without taking away the growth opportunity? Again, I want to be clear with you guys. This is not just because this moment in time. Clients get afraid. How many of you have ever invested in going to a workshop or a training or hiring a coach? And the moment you sent the money, you suddenly have this fear, this buyer's remorse, like, oh shit, I'm not sure I've done the right thing. I wonder if I can get my money back. Anyone? Yeah. If you haven't ever done that, then you haven't yet invested enough in your coaching. So I really recommend you look at where are you investing right now, because you need to have that feeling. If you don't have that feeling, then you can't relate to what they're going through. So what I always do in those moments is I say, call me. That's it. Call me. 2 lines, two words on an email. Call me. And then I get into a conversation with them. And I usually do something like this. Look, it would be the easiest thing in the world once we're on a call. I'd never try and coach somebody around their fears around money over an email. Call me. FaceTime me. When you're on a call, here's what I would say. Hey, it would be the easiest thing in the world for me to give a refund right now. But you hired me as your coach. So how would you like me in this moment to give you the most powerful coaching experience we can do? Either now or we can speak later on today or tomorrow. Let's do an hour of coaching and then let's review at that moment. Since you hired me as your coach, let me be here for you and then we can have the money conversation. But I'm here for you. You asked me to be a high-powered coach and to bring everything I can. Let me bring everything in service of you right now. What's the biggest challenge you're facing in this moment? Let's talk about that. What's the biggest risk to your business in this moment? Let's talk about that. That's what I would do, Amina. I've done that before many times. External circumstances, nothing to do with it. People got afraid. Almost every time. Hey, Amina, are you unmuting?
Oh, yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah. Let's talk for a second.
Thank you. Wow. You have eagle eyes. It's not a tool with money. It's about the coaching. She made a decision about her life and where to live in this moment that she regrets. So we explored it. She decided to stay in South Africa, and then she made an impulse decision and moved back to France. And now she hates it. She's feeling really low and isolated and awful. So she ignored her intuition and acted from fear. But I don't know, what can I do? What can I say? That isn't rescuing, but is compassionate.
What's the problem here then? Tell me what the problem is.
It was just a coaching question, as in she sent me an email today saying I went against the agreement or the decision I had made in the session, and now I hate it and I regret it.
Okay, great. Okay, I understand. So everything I said before is of real value to other people. For you, I would still say, call me. Get her on a call. Hey,
That's not rescuing.
say that again, Amina.
That's not rescuing.
No,
Because she's kind of looking for safety and reassurance, I guess. But I feel like we have to be responsible for our own decisions. If she, she's
you know what?
agree.
Sometimes we need a bit of reassurance. It's okay. I'd listen to her, and then you could say, "Hey, it sounds like you're feeling anxious right now. It sounds like you're regretting the decision." You can repeat back to her what she's saying rather than any feedback from you. Let her feel heard. Let her feel deeply heard. You don't have to give any comment whatsoever. You don't have to rescue her. Sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed right now. Sounds like you regret this decision. Sounds like you think this is a huge mistake. I understand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I feel like, well.
And then you can say, how can I support you right now?
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Amina. All right, we're at time, and I see so many interesting questions. We're going to do this again next week. I'm going to do this for a little while longer, open up these calls to our whole community. It's great to see over 100 of you been here. I can't answer every single question. I'll do my best to get to questions. We have a Facebook group where I've got an Ask Me Anything, and you can ask your questions in there. So let me send you all some love in this moment. And I'm going to unmute everybody and ask you guys to send each other some love. It feels nice to feel connected in this moment. So I'll see you next week. I'll see you in the Facebook group. Let's send each other some love.
I'm really gonna
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Amazing.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks so much. Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
Bye for now. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.